This is a pedigree of characters from the TV series Game of Thrones. While I am the one who drew the image, it is based off of the pedigree from Time magazine. Now, before we get into deciphering this pedigree, let's first discuss the different modes of inheritance. First, we'll discuss autosomal dominant. If a trait is autosomal, then it means it is positioned on a non-sex chromosome. And if it is autosomal dominant, it means the dominant allele will be phenotypically expressed over the recessive allele. In Game of Thrones talk, this can best be described with swords and daggers, with the sword representing the dominant allele and the dagger representing the recessive allele. If one went to battle, the sword would win over a dagger, so the phenotype of the sword would be what is present, regardless if the dagger allele is present. If the trait is autosomal recessive, it means the recessive allele is present, phenotypically, and only when the dominant allele is not present. In Game of Thrones lingo, the dagger will only win in battle if it is against another dagger, meaning the dagger phenotype will only be present if only daggers, the recessive allele, are displayed. X-linked modes of inheritance are traits whose alleles are found on the X chromosome. It is important to note that males only have one X chromosome, while females have two. So whatever allele is present on the one male X chromosome is what phenotype will be displayed. For females, X-linked dominant traits still follow the dominant rules. The dominant allele will phenotypically be expressed over the recessive allele. The sword will always win over the dagger. X-linked recessive traits still follow the recessive rules. The recessive allele is only displayed phenotypically if it is the only allele present. The dagger will only win if the dagger is the only allele present. Y-linked traits are traits that are found on the Y chromosome, a chromosome in which only males have. For this mode of inheritance, only males can inherit and display the trait. In Game of Thrones logic, a good way to think of it would be the thick beards all the males have. While this is technically not a Y-linked trait, only the males grow the beards while the females do not. Now that we have the basic knowledge, it's time to examine the Game of Thrones pedigree. The trait being displayed is grayscales. These genotypes show how the trait could be autosomal recessive. These genotypes show how the trait could be X-linked recessive. Grayscales cannot be autosomal dominant trait because the Eddard and Bingen display the trait phenotypically, while the parents do not. A criterion for a trait to be dominant is if the child was affected, one of the parents must be affected, and this is not the case. This same criterion explains why grayscales cannot be X-linked dominant either. Again, neither Richard nor Lara are affected, but their children, Eddard and Bingen, are. Lastly, grayscales cannot be a Y-linked trait because Rhaella Targaryen is female, meaning she has two X chromosomes and does not have a Y chromosome, but still displays the trait phenotypically. This means that the trait is not found on the Y chromosome.